Okay, so we're on the back side of day 2 notes, and we're going to start talking about what a directed line segment is. And all it is a line segment that has magnitude, which is size or length, and direction. And if you remember, we talked about something called a vector when we were talking about translations. In translations, they're a slide, and when you slide, you have to know how far to slide and in what direction. And so the vector, if you connected the 2 points, the previous point in the image, and you connected them with a little line segment and gave it an arrow, that's actually called the vector. It tells you how far you slid and in what direction. And so in number 4, it talks about a line segment whose endpoints are at A, which is at -7, +5, and B, who's at 9, -7. Okay. I'm going to try to draw the straightest line I can. Kind of important to draw a straight line in this case. Okay, so hopefully that'll work out. All right. In number part A, I guess I should say, it says find the midpoint of AB and label it M. So because they're asking for the midpoint of our line segment, we just go ahead and say, all right, midpoint, what do you do? Add them together and divide by 2. All right, and so we're going to take our x coordinates and add them together first because x comes first in a point, including a midpoint. And then we'll take our y coordinates and add them together secondly. So we have 5 and -7 being added together. Okay. So -7 plus 9 is 2, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. 5 plus -7 is -2, and -2 divided by 2 is -1. And now we're going to go ahead and find our midpoint, which is at +1, -1. And that's why I wanted to use a straight edge, so that actually came right on. That point ended up right on my line segment. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and do part B. It says find the midpoint of AM. So now pretend AM is our line segment, and we're going to find the midpoint of that. So we have to make sure that we're using coordinates of A, which is up here, and now M, which is here. So midpoint, what do you do? Add them together and divide by 2. All right, and we'll take our x's, which is -7 from the A coordinate and 1 from the M coordinate. And then we'll take our y's, which is 5 and -1. All right, -7 plus 1 is -6, and -6 divided by 2 is -3. 5 plus a -1 is 4, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. And now we can go find -3, +2, and that is the middle, smack dab, the point between A and M, and they want us to label it P. All right. So in part C, they said find the midpoint of MB. All right, so now we have to use the coordinates of M and B. So midpoint, what do you do? Add them together and divide by 2. And since we're using M and B, we'll take the x coordinates of both of those, and it's 9 and 1. And the y coordinates are -7 and -1. All right, 9 plus 1 is 10, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. -7 plus a -1 is -8, and -8 divided by 2 is -4. And they want us to call this W. So +5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is W. All right, so part D says, how many equal parts is AB divided into? And so right here, the whole line segment called AB has been divided into 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. Part E asks, what is the ratio of AP? This is AP to PB. Well, AP is just one of those equal parts, and PB is 3 of the equal parts. And so that would be a 1-to-3 ratio. Okay. Part F says find the point on the directed line segment from 9, -7. And 9, -7, we have to remember, guys, is our B coordinate. To -7, 5, which is our A coordinate. So because they're saying I'm coming from B, this is my start. and then I'm going to A in that direction. This is my finish. Okay, that divides it into a 1-to-3 ratio. So what that means is that you want to start at B. Okay, you want to travel 1 equal part, which would leave us at W, and leave 3 equal parts left to go. And so that's going to end up being W. Okay, and W is at 5, -4. All right, part G is extremely similar, but they're saying find the point on the directed line segment from 9, -7, which is still B, to -7, 5, which is still A. That divides it into a ratio of 3 to 1. So what that means is that you still want to start at B, but you want to travel 3 equal parts. So if you travel 1 equal part, 2 equal parts, 3 equal parts, that puts you at P, and that means you leave 1 equal part to go, and just to make sure that you're in the right spot. And so this would be at P, and that's at -3, 2. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. All right, let's see, one more question. Number 5 talks about find the point on the directed segment from -2, 0 to 5, 8. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and connect. If I hit a straight edge, it would be more useful. I'll give you a little bit more of an exact line segment. All right, so because we're coming from -2, 0, this is our start. And we're going to 5, 8, and therefore 5, 8 is our finish. All right, and we're looking for a point somewhere on that line segment that divides that line segment into a ratio of 1-to-3, which is 4 equal parts. And so we're going to go ahead and start using our midpoint divided into 2 equal parts, and then use our midpoint again and again to get our 4 equal parts. Okay, and so here we go. We got midpoint, midpoint, midpoint. What do? Add them together and divide by 2. So our x's go first, which are -2 and 5, and our y's go second, which is 0 and 8. -2 plus 5 is 3, and 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. 0 plus 8 is 8, divided by 2 is 4. So we're looking for 1.5, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So right here, and that's our midpoint. But that only divides it into a 1-to-1 ratio. So we have to divide it into a few more midpoints. And so now I'm going to go ahead and use the midpoint from -2, 0, which is my start, to 1.5, 4, which is my midpoint. And that way I'll get another point in between there. So we'll say midpoint, midpoint, what do? Add them together and divide by 2. So the x's first from those 2 points are -2 and 1.5. And 0 and 4 are the y's. So -2 plus 1.5 is -0.5, and -0.5 divided by 2 is -1/4. Okay. And 0 plus 4 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So -1/4, +2. So it looks like it's about right here. Okay. And so now we have one more midpoint to go ahead and find, and we're going to use the coordinates of our midpoint right in the middle, and our endpoint of 5, 8. So midpoint, midpoint, what do? You add them together and you divide by 2. So x is first from those 2 points, which is 5 and 1.5, and 8 and 4 are the y's. So 5 plus 1.5 is 6.5. And 6.5, let's see, divided by 2 is 3.25. And 8 plus 4 is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So 3.25 and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's about right here. And so now you guys can see that we have 1 equal part here, 2 equal parts here, 3 equal parts, and 4 equal parts. And so now remember, we have to start at the start line or the start point, okay, which is -2, 0. We have to travel 1 equal part and leave 3 equal parts. And so when that happens is that we end up with this point right here, which is our green point. And this is the point on that line segment that divides it into a ratio of 1 equal part and 3 equal parts when you start from -2, 0 and you go 2, 5, 8. All right, I will see you guys on the next day of notes.